Hi, welcome to Hyperion Hype Club. My name is McKenna and I love the Kingdom Keepers books by Ridley Pearson. Join me as we discuss this series and others published by Disney Hyperion Books. Let's get into it. Hi, everybody. As we wait for Kingdom Keepers Inheritance, the final draw to come out, which is the last of any Kingdom Keepers books ever, I decided to reread the first and second Inheritance books, so the Shimmer and Villain's Realm, and recap them for you guys, just in case you didn't want to reread them, and just to refresh your minds on them and things that happened, certain characters that were there. So let's go ahead and get started with the main characters in this book, all of whom live behind Epcot. I kind of imagine like in the boardwalk out in Beach Club area, and I forget what the body of water back there is called, but in there, like in their community kind of thing. I don't know. That's just what I think. I'm going over just the children of the Kingdom Keepers, so like the children of light. So Eli, his parents are Finn, the original DHI leader, and Amanda, a fairly eventually turned DHI with psychokinetic ability. That's what they call it. We can also call it telekinetic. Eli's ability is communicating with all like living beings, so like animals, people speaking other languages, things like that, and general super hearing and occasional boosts to his other senses and skills have come about. He's also psychokinetic, like his mom. I personally think he has way too many abilities for someone with only one fairly parent, but whatever helps the plot, I guess. Next, we have Blair, whose parents are OG Kingdom Keepers, Maybeck and Charlene. She has a photographic memory. I'm not sure if that's her ability. I have it listed as her ability, but like that's not confirmed. It would make sense that she doesn't have an ability because neither her parents are Fairleys. Charlie is Blair's twin. He was at sleepaway camp during the first book, and in the first book, it says he's Blair's twin, but in the second book, it says he's closer to Lily's age, and Lily, I think, is like 2, maybe 3 years younger than all the other kids. So there's one inconsistency. We'll cover many more of them later. He is just generally super smart. I'll go to Lily next. Her parents are Maddie. Um, well, in the first book it says Maddie, in the second book it says Story, and we will talk about Maddie and Story later. Yeah. Her ability is she can touch an object and see its past. Like I said before, she's younger than the other kids in her grade, and she mixes up words a lot. Last but not least, we have Marty, whose parents are Jess, which Jess is the fairly with clairvoyance, and Jacinto, who wasn't part of the original series and was only mentioned once in the first book. Marty's ability, like his mom, is clairvoyance. So he can kind of dream the future and then usually like draws out what he sees. Next, I have what is the Shimmer. So sometimes also called the Vanishing. It's a portal between locations opened by making an X in the air, or in the second book, they do mostly circles. So you can see on the cover of the Shimmer, they have an X drawn. And on the cover of Villain's Realm, they have a circle drawn. So yeah, making X circle, whatever. Sometimes there are twirls in the air with a certain magical ink, like what was used in the original series in Walt's pen. The person using the ink, it's unclear, but I like to think they must believe it will work for the shimmer to appear. Because the only time we haven't seen it work was when Charlene used it, and I wasn't quite sure if she actually believed that it would work, so it didn't. And a lot of Disney things have to do with like belief. Like the villains are coming about again, like the overtakers are coming about again, because more people are funneling this belief into them with the building of the different villains' realms. The locations for the Shimmer are an Epcot Pavilion and its corresponding real world countries Disney or ex-Disney park. That's how it is in the first book. In the second book, it's more like if a certain location is shared by two different parks and it seems like exclusively those two different parks, then there will be a portal between those two. They can be, in the first book, says they can be made on the days of and shortly following a full moon until it starts to wane. And that full moon in the first book was followed by a total solar eclipse, which is one of the inconsistencies we might get to later. But in the second book, they can be drawn regardless of eclipses and the phase of the moon. So maybe the whole like until the moon is waning thing was just a theory they had in the first book, but in the second book they're like, no, that was just like a starting point. So maybe like the next time they won't be able to draw shimmers or vanishing anymore would be the next total solar eclipse. I'm not sure, just theorizing a little. All right, so next, the general plot of The Shimmer. Eli was held hostage in a rundown ex-Disney park in Morocco, now part of a North African union called NORAF, after a total eclipse occurred in central Florida. Walid, leader, and some others helped Eli escape the park and go to the Shroud, an anti-Carneus group that is run by Kamala. Blair, Lily, and Marty wind up in the Noraf Park as well and are helped by members of the Shroud and a genie disguised as a cat named Desamora. Blair then jumps through multiple shimmers and winds up in Japan, where she meets Talon and his club before her and Talon end up back in Morocco. The adults figured out how to become DHI solograms. The kids defeat Carnius and Kamala, bringing the Ink and Hadiza back to Epcot and the community. The kids have also learned about their parents being Kingdom Keepers. All of the commotion connects to Villain's Realm areas opening in various parks. I also want to say that all of the commotion in this series connects to Villain's Realm areas opening in various parks and what is being built in Disney World right now. Or I believe they said construction might start in March based on certain permitting things. I'm not quite sure. But they're building a freaking Villain's Land. I'll say it again for those who have not heard me say it before. They need to make a Kingdom Keepers version of Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom in that land. Please. Please. I like once put that on like an Instagram story or something and Ridley Pearson liked it and I was like, please make it happen. That would be so cool. Okay, and then next, the general plot of Villain's Realm. Walter, Disney's CEO, was enchanted by Ursula, causing him to approve and fast-track the construction of Villain's Realms in every set of parks around the world, and put the Kingdom Keepers on administrative leave, restricting their access and tracking their location, at least as long as they have their worms on, which we'll cover worms later. Maleficent freed a chemist from jail and had Vanessa slash Ursula keep him in line while he tried to figure out how to make more of the special ink for them. Eli, Blair, Marty, Charlie, and the fairy godmother, aka FGM, bounce between Epcot, Disneyland, Disney's California Adventure, and Disneyland Paris as they tried to disenchant Walter and stop Dr. Displeasy, the chemist. Eli eventually stole Displeasy's wonky ink, and Displeasy was trapped in a kind of foggy or blurry realm. Charlie and the FGM succeeded in disenchanting Walter. I also want to point out one thing that Tiana said that will likely carry over into the final draw. There is one who holds the secret to the end of the troubles. She is neither human nor beast. She can hear but not speak, fly but not walk. Find her and do as she says. So Tinkerbell was my first thought, but she can walk, so she's out. I was also thinking of spirits or ghosts, and Zero came to mind, but he's a boy, so he's out too. I really don't know, but I will definitely be looking for this character in the third book. Okay, so Disney characters interacted with, major ones that were interacted with, Ariel, Tiana, Fairy Godmother, Cinderella, Ursula slash Vanessa, Flotsam and Jetsam, Maleficent, and Dr. Facilier. Other ones that we've briefly come across, Jafar, Hans, the Big Bad Wolf, and Queen Narissa, who's from Enchanted. And then non-Disney characters interacted with that may be relevant to the plot in the last book. I'm just speculating here. There's Marissa, who is Eli's crush and fluent in French. Leader, a mouse that, with other rodents and Walid, helped Eli escape his pirate's prison. At the end of the first book, we find out that Leader made it to Epcot, which is why I'm like, why was he not in the second book? He must be in the third book. I swear Leader has to be in the third book. But there are things we'll go over that makes me feel like Ridley Pearson forgot what happened at the end of the first book. So, Carnius, aka Emery Langford Hollingsworth, the grandson of a villain from the original series, ran the rundown ex-Disney park in Morocco like a show to entertain himself. According to one of Vanessa slash Ursula's thoughts, in the second book, he had possibly been enchanted by her. Oh, I wonder if his relatives have been enchanted by her too. Hmm, interesting. Okay, anyway, Kamala, leader of the Shroud, wanted the ink for the Shroud, Jasmine's great 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 granddaughter. Hadiza, member of the Shroud, helps the children, standing up to Kamala when necessary, fights off the Fantasia brooms in the second Inheritance book. Talon, a redheaded British boy who is a member of a secret club at Tokyo Disney Sea. The only other member's name we learned was Moselle. He mentioned that his mom, a researcher, is part of a society of explorers. So I like to think she's part of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. Ooh, fun. Okay, and then Walter Wright, Disney CEO, who was enchanted by Ursula for most of the second book. And then minor, so just like very briefly mentioned, Will Philby, a child of Willa and Philby, Elena, Lily's older sister, and Scott Morgan, a bully. And then random things that are relevant. So the Worms device. This is the wireless organizer and messenger system, like a higher tech Apple Watch slash Magic Band combo, which Apple Watches can already act as Magic Bands from my understanding, but obviously this is still higher tech. Only for park residents, has an accessory called an ear cert that translates languages for you. And then there's Waddy, the Whitman's robotic dog. I wrote that down before. Waddy, Finn sacrificed Waddy to help protect the kids. So, R.I.P. Waddy, the robotic dog. But maybe he'll be mentioned. I don't know why I did that. I should do like that, like the Hunger Games. Waddy. Okay, anyway, so there's so many inconsistencies in these books, like between just Villain's Realm and the Shimmer, between them and the OG series. I'm just gonna go over the larger ones because I don't have all day. Okay, so Maddie and Story. In the original series, Maddie is the one who had the ability to touch a person and or touch any living, breathing being and see their past, aka retrocognition for any Empyrean fans. And I figured that Ridley Pearson remembered that because Lily's ability is to touch an object and see its past, and she is Maddie's daughter. And then in the second book, it says she's Story's daughter, and like, but Story's the one with Maddie's abilities later on in the first book, and like he ugh. Story was originally enchanted by Ursula. That's how he met her. She was not a fairy at all. But yeah, they completely left Maddie out of Villain's Realm. Justice for Maddie. Come on. This this is like the core of the character's purpose in the series, and you just like forgot. Just whatever. The next one, the total solar eclipse happened on the same day as a full moon, but in real life they only happen with new moons. Total lunar eclipses happen with full moons. Another one, Kamala didn't have any ink at the end of the first book. The kids had it. At the beginning of the second book, Kamala had all of it. I don't get it. Well, not all of it. The villains had like a tiny little bit. But still, come on. You forgot about leader. You forgot who had the ink. Okay. And then one that will probably be a mystery that is never solved. The timeline of these books. So in the Shimmer, it says it's summer. It's 20 years after the original series, more than 20 years since it started. Says Expedition Everest is older than Finn and Amanda, and that opened in April 2006. So and a lot of things say like the OG story happened like around 2020. So I guess that could make sense. Um, with that, it says Pandora opened more than 25 years ago, and it opened May 2017, which would mean it would have to at least be 2042. It says Dak is 47 years old in this book, making it 2045. And since it didn't say like around 50 years, around 40 years or something, it gave us a concrete amount of years, 47, makes it 2045. And then it said the Kingdom Keepers were around 2010, which completely goes against the Expedition Everest thing. Uh, and then Florida is supposed to have a total solar eclipse, like IRL, on August 12th, 2045. So far, everything except the 2010 comment places this story in 2045 and the OG in like 2020-ish. But something later mentions the OGs being around in the early, like the OG Kingdom Keepers in the original series being around in the early 2000s. And then it says the OGs were around 2 decades ago in the 2020s. The second book then starts on October 12th, 2040. It's not in the past. Well, it says 7 days earlier was October 5th, 2040. So I'm guessing it starts on October 12th, 2040. And the first book is confirmed to take place several months before the second one. It also says the Galaxy's Edge is 30 years old, making it the year 2049. They also called it an attraction rather than a land, but that's beside the point. But yeah, so the timeline, it's like there's so many clues pointing to it being 2045, the original Keepers being 2020, some inconsistencies there, but then it's actually saying it's the year 2040. I don't know. Like it's like there were no consistency editors on this thing. Like they just passed off parts of the book to each other. Because like even at the end of Villain's Realm, they call Marissa Marie Claire, which I'm pretty sure was her original name for the series. But I'm just like, did no one really edit this book? Like, did they just look for grammar stuff? Because the grammar's great, as far as I can tell. But like, it makes it so frustrating, especially because like the plot, especially in Villain's Realm, was so good. But there was it's so frustrating. Hmm. But anyway, yeah, take what you will for the timeline. Take what you will from the inconsistencies. Go into the third book, remembering those inconsistencies so that when they mention Story having some kind of ability, you're not like, wait, what? I thought it was Maddie who had that. It was, but apparently in the series, it's Story. I don't know. I don't know. But that's that. So yeah, thank you guys for listening, and I will see you, I guess, for my final draw review. Bye! Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, and follow. Also, please chat with me and other members of this club in the comments of the YouTube video. My other social media information and a link to the Long Distance Sisters podcast I am also part of will be below. Back in a whack!